We all know the usual suspects: bamboo, English ivy, mint. Those notorious garden bullies were warned about from the start. They spread fast, take over, and are tough to control. But what about the less obvious offenders? The plants that seem harmless, even beautiful, until it's too late? Well, we're digging into the plants gardeners regret planting, ones that cause problems no one saw coming. Whether it's relentless self-seeding or an unsightly growth habit, these plants have definitely earned a spot on the never again list. Hi, this is Amy from Gardening Know-How, and I've pulled together this list from our team of writers along with stories from gardeners across social media. But before we get into their regrets, I'm going first. This right here is my nemesis, the chameleon plant. Yes, it's colorful and unique, and those variegated leaves are definitely eye-catching. But let me tell you, it's one of my biggest gardening regrets. Once it's in the ground, it doesn't stay put. It spreads fast, really fast, thanks to its underground rhizomes. I started with just a small patch, and within a couple of seasons, it was popping up everywhere, even in places I never planted it. I've tried digging it up, smothering it, even using weed killer. But the roots run deep, and no matter what I do, it keeps coming back. Removing it has become an ongoing battle, and I'm definitely not alone. Check out what these other gardeners have to say. Next on my personal list, anything in the cherry family, like the popular weeping cherry or sand cherry. No, they're not invasive like the chameleon plant, but I've actually removed all of them from my landscape over the past few years. Why? Because they turned into a summer-long headache. Every single year, Japanese beetles would show up and completely devour the leaves, leaving behind sad, skeletonized plants. No matter what I tried, the beetles just kept coming back. What should have been a beautiful focal point in the garden became a constant source of stress. So eventually, I gave up and pulled them all out. And you know what? After removing those plants, I barely see Japanese beetles in my yard anymore. That alone made it worth it. When I took this question to social media, one answer came up again and again: the Rose of Sharon. At first glance, it seems like the perfect low-maintenance shrub. Beautiful blooms, tough as nails, and it thrives just about anywhere. But after a few seasons, the regret starts to sink in. It self-seeds like crazy. Tiny seedlings start popping up all over the garden. And no matter how many you pull, more keep coming. It turns into a constant chore just trying to keep them under control. Now, if you still love the look of Rose of Sharon, don't worry. There's hope. New seedless varieties like the Chiffon series, Satin series, and Purple Pillar, which I actually have in my landscape, offer the same beauty without the invasion. These cultivars are a great choice for gardeners who want all the flowers and none of the frustration. Another plant that seems harmless at first, the sweet autumn clematis. It grows fast, it's fragrant, and it's absolutely covered in pretty white blooms. But it does not take long to discover its aggressive side. This vine doesn't just stay on the trellis where you planted it. It climbs, sprawls, and smothers anything in its path. And good luck trying to remove it. Pulling it out often seems to make things worse, encouraging even more shoots to pop up. The good news? There are plenty of other clematis varieties that are much better behaved, and honestly have even showier flowers. So it's no surprise that the sweet autumn clematis ends up on a lot of gardeners' never again lists. Bishop's weed or goutweed is another one of those plants gardeners often regret planting, even if it seemed like a good ground cover solution at first. While its variegated leaves can brighten up shady spots, this plant quickly reveals its true nature as a relentless garden thug. It spreads aggressively through underground rhizomes, overrunning flower beds, popping up in lawns, and weaving its way through desirable plants. Once established, it's extremely difficult to remove. Digging often misses pieces of the root, and even a small fragment left behind can regrow and start the invasion all over again. Another vine that often makes the regret list is the trumpet vine. Native to the southeastern United States, this vigorous climber is infamous for aggressively spreading far from its original planting spot. It grabs onto walls, fences, and trees with aggressive tendrils, often damaging or smothering nearby plants. Even if you cut it back, trumpet vine bounces back fast, sometimes even stronger than before, making it incredibly tough to control or get rid of. No wonder this one got so many votes. It's clear a lot of gardeners have their own battles with trumpet vine. Our team here at Gardening Know-How also shared some of their top planting regrets, and one surprising entry was common milkweed. Content editor Kathleen Walters admits she regrets planting milkweed in her garden beds. She knows how important milkweed is as a host plant for monarch butterflies, but she wishes she had planted it somewhere else or contained in a pot. It has spread everywhere, even into her neighbor's lawn, and she's constantly working to keep it under control. Another surprising entry? Coneflowers. And you may be surprised why. Content editor and fellow video producer here at Gardening Know-How, Laura Walters, regrets planting coneflowers in her yard. Even though coneflowers are supposed to be deer resistant, the deer in her neighborhood kept munching them down to little nubs every year. Laura loves coneflowers and always hopes for a summer filled with pink blooms, but the deer seem to have other plans. She tried growing coneflowers from seed for about 3 years before finally giving up. A few plants still sprout, but the blooms are few and far between, and when they do appear, the deer eat them within a day or two. Interestingly, Laura gave some of these sprouts to her sister, and they thrive in her deer-free yard, growing like crazy. Laura also mentioned another really popular perennial, the salvia, and for a very specific reason. She said it looks beautiful for about 3 years, but after that, it starts to look sad, with a big hole forming in the middle. She's divided it several times, but those divisions do fine for only a few years, but the same problem shows up yet again. It's not the worst issue, but it's frustrating to see it lose its fullness year after year. So if you're buying salvia plants, look for descriptions like strong, upright growth or resistant to splitting to avoid this problem and keep your plants looking their best. Our editor-in-chief, Melanie, shared 2 perennial plants she personally regrets. The first is Bear's Breeches. While the foliage might seem plain at first, it quickly grows huge and takes over, eventually looking wilted, shaggy, and even rotting in wet weather. She tried digging one out, but didn't realize how tough it would be. Digging just spreads the rhizomes, creating even more plants. Now, Melanie knows the best way to kill it is by smothering, and that's exactly what she plans to do when she's able to get around to it. Another plant she regrets planting is the so-called dwarf butterfly bush in the front yard. While it's not the invasive, self-seeding type, it grew much larger than expected and quickly took over the bed. Pruning it back has been a lot of work, and it just keeps growing bigger and bigger. Her plan isn't to remove it completely, but to move it to a better spot at the back of the garden. It's also important to mention that butterfly bush is considered invasive in many parts of the United States, so gardeners should be cautious when planting this shrub. Thanks for joining me as we uncovered some of the plants gardeners regret the most. The reasons these gardeners dislike them may not apply to you, but if you've had your own plant regrets or tips for managing these garden troublemakers, drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your stories. Until next time, happy gardening, and may your plants bring you joy, not headaches.